Hello, chess friends, and welcome to Zarov's chess channel, and welcome to the Candidates Tournament in 2020-2021. We're now in the round 11, and before this round, Jan Nepomniachtchi had a comfortable 1-point lead in front of Anish Giri and Fabiano Caruana. So today's derby of the day was, of course, the game between Nepo and Caruana. The game ended in a draw, so it means now still Nepo has a comfortable 1-point lead in front of Caruana. But we're covering now this game between Anish Giri and Liren. If now Liren makes a draw here, I think then it's simply over. Jan Nepomniachtchi will be the winner of the Candidates 2020-2021. So it was a must win now for Anish Giri. We know that Anish Giri is a great player, but sometimes he cannot really convert disadvantages in his game. So it was really time now for him to make a dynamic game and really try to win this and complicate things in this very, very important tournament. So let's check out now the game. Here e4 played by Anish. We have e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to b5. The Rui Lopez is on the board. We have a6, the so-called Murphy defense, bishop to a4. It's a very often line, of course, the most often maybe line in of all times that's played in top grandmaster level. Here in the continuation of the game, we have knight to f6, and now castling played by Anish Giri. You can of course take out the pawn, that it leads into further complications. We have explained several times also this particular lines. In the continuation of the game, Liren plays the Rui Lopez close variation here with the move bishop to e7, and now Anish plays this idea, bishop takes c6. This idea is very, very often played in top grandmaster level. The idea is clear. We want to mess up a little bit the pawn structure. Here we have now the double pawn structure on the c file. What black has, of course, as a compensation is the bishop pair. When you have the bishop pair on the board, you want to create dynamics, you want to open the positions, you want to create open files, open diagonals. You don't mind if the position gets really complicated, because the bishop's activity gives you always a great pleasure if the position is open. But from white perspective, what we're trying to do now is to build a fortress on light force. So it means now in some occasions you'll see white is building this fortresses d3, maybe even b3, knight to a3, knight to c4, building really a firm setup on light force, because you have given up already your likes for bishop, so you have to protect this squares on the board. So in the continuation, we have d3. Not that this move is only a protective move, it's also of course liberating this long diagonal for the Dashwood bishop. So bishop to d6 played by Ding. We have knight to d2, bishop to e6. If you try to pin now here the knight on f3, there is, I think, now a great defensive maneuver that you can use in order to get out of this pin very, very easily without further messing up your pawn structure. I think one of the best ways here is to play the move h3, and then after bishop to h5, you should always memorize this maneuver, knight to c4, and maybe, I don't know, after something like queen to e7, you could go knight to e3, knight to f5, and then knight to g3. That's a maneuver you have to, I think, sometimes be familiar with, because you can get out of this very annoying pin without, as I said, further messing up your pawn structure on the king side, because a g4 move would be very, very risky. There are even some tactical threats of knight takes g4 followed with bishop to g4, and then maybe even queen to f6. So sometimes, as I said, if you get pinned like this, I think you can do this maneuver. So as I said, knight to c3, knight to c4, knight to e3, knight to f5, and then knight to g3. So here in the continuation of the game, after the move knight from b to d2, Ding didn't want to play this line. He played now the move bishop to e6, getting use now of both of these diagonals, because he wants now to use simply his bishop's activity. In the continuation of the game, knight to b3. Here Anish is aiming these two squares, knight to a5, knight to c5, maybe with the support of the bishop, even try this outpost here of the knight. Knight to c5 is then very dangerous, attacking simply the weak b7 pawn. In the continuation of the game, we have knight to b3, as said, queen to e7, and now knight to a5 immediately by Anish Giri. We have queenside castling. It's a great idea here, I think, for black to castle queenside, because we have now this opposite side castling game. It means now we will have this opposite side castling attacking game, in which white is trying to attack, of course, the queen side. Black is trying, of course, to attack the king side, with great opportunities for both sides, I think. But when we, from black's perspective, for instance, if we manage to liberate the bishop here, then black could have really a pleasant game. Here Anish plays now the move queen to e2, and if you maybe put this move into an engine, it's not the best suggested move. There are lines of h3, maybe even a3. Here simply playing this preventing ideas, never allow these bishops to get active. But I think this move queen to e2 is something that Anish Giri has prepared at home. it allows now basically Ding Liren to play this move bishop to g4, which Ding played, of course, in the continuation of the game. And I like now really Anish Giri's game, because he allowed the spin. He knows that this position is now very complicated to play, but he has to make a win in order to maybe win the candidate. So that's why I like his idea to now finally create some dynamics. Bishop to g4. Here we have c3. We have c5, which wasn't the best of moves. I think it's a simple loss of tempo here by Ding Liren. We have said it's an opposite side attack game, so now you have to attack that side where you're better. So it means now for Ding Liren, you have to play f5 or rook to g8 and then g5. So here a better continuation is simply to play here the move knight to d7 and finally break the position with the move f5. I think it leads now into a complicated, very complicated game here for white. After move rook to f8, you see the spin is still there. So as I said, maybe knight to d7 or even rook to g8 is here an opportunity. Maybe white could attack further the position on the queen side with the move b4, but now knight to h5 is very dangerous. The game is still equal for both sides, but I think this is a much better continuation for Ding, because he would have attacked the position on the king side immediately. Now after the move c5, as I said, it seems to me that it was simply a loss of tempo. So here a3 played by Anish, trying now this b4 pawn breakthrough. c6, we have now b4, bishop to c7, knight to b3, and here finally knight to d7, but it comes a little bit too late. Here Anish plays now the move h3, bishop to h5, and now bishop to e3. Here Ding goes all in. He knows that he will probably lose now the battle on the queen side. You see, because of the loss of tempo, Anish Giri has broken already the position there. So now Ding Liren plays finally the move f5. And I want you to just imagine this position if Ding Liren wouldn't have lost the tempo with the move c5. If this position would have been reached with 1+ tempo here for black, I think then black could have a decent game. In the continuation of the game after the move f5, we have now bishop takes c5, here queen to f7. You don't want to take, of course, knight takes c5. It leads now again into a complicated game. After knight to c5, there are even maybe some tactical threats of d4. I always like to see this kind of tactics, d4, and maybe something like knight to a6 and followed with queen to a6, rook to d1 and similar stuff. So it's already a dangerous position then maybe on the queen side. So as I said, this is not working immediately, but maybe as a long-term tactic sort of it could work. So here, as said, after move bishop to c5, Ding Liren plays queen to f7, wants to create finally this attack around the square f3 where we have created the spin. As I said, again, just imagine this position if Ding would have a +1 tempo on the board. So c5 in the beginning, as I said, was simply something that bothered me in Ding's position. After move queen to f7, here rook to b1 played by Anish, we have g5. Now here Ding Liren wants finally to play the move g4, and here Anish Giri found a great way to defend this position. We have e takes f5, we have now g4 played by Ding Liren, and this is now, I think, the main mistake of Ding Liren in this game. g4 allows now Anish Giri to liberate himself from the spin, to unpin himself, because a better continuation is, I think, simply to play the move queen to f5, and now queen to e4 of course creates now a simplified game here for Anish Giri after trades maybe of queens, queen takes e4, maybe something like d takes e4, bishop to f3, here g takes f3, maybe even knight to c5, here knight to c5. But I think in this particular scenario, white will always find a great way to cement this knight around the square f5. So what white is searching for in this position is an outpost around the square f5, and I think this knight could be slightly better than the bishop. So as said, g4, it's now huge mistake here by Ding Liren, because now Anish found a great way how to unpin himself with the move knight to g5. If you take now here g takes h3, it's not so good. We can simply take knight to f7. You can take out maybe here the queen, we can take out the rook, you can maybe also take out the rook, here king to f1, maybe you can try this one out too. But I think in this particular scenario that white is still much better. First of all, what we should notice, the king is closer to the center, so in the potential endgame white could have a decisive advantage. Also what we could do is search for great outposts of the knight, knight to d2, knight to e4, king to f3, d3, rook to h1. That would be, I think, a decent setup here, simply attacking this isolated pawn. And as I said, in this particular scenario, I still like more here Anish position, because the king is closer to the center. I think we should immediately here in this position attack the pawn on h7. So after the move knight to g5, Ding Liren takes now the pawn on f5, but now Anish found a great way how to really lock this bishop here. This bishop is now useless. h4 paralyzing the position, and now Anish has also a great opportunity to build this very nice fortress around the square e4. As we said in the beginning, the fortress idea is simply great sometimes in this close setups. Now after potential knight to e4, white has a decent game, so it's much better here position for Anish, because Ding Liren played this aggressive move g4. So here b6 played by Ding Liren, and here Anish played really now outstanding, brutal tactical chess. What I really liked about this game is that, of course, it's part of Anish Giri's preparation. It's of course part of his great calculations, but he found great defensive ideas here, like this move h4, and now we'll see also a little bit the tactical Anish Giri. Here Anish decides to sacrifice the pawn and play simply sacrifice the bishop, pardon me, plays simply knight to e4, great move. And now after b takes c5, here the b file is open, and Ding Liren is already in serious trouble. So here knight to f6 played by Ding Liren. He tries now to simplify the position. He's trying now to trade off more pieces, because he realizes, of course, that he could have some trouble. But a better idea is simply here, instead of this move knight to b8, you have to play now closer with your knight towards the king, because as we said, these are main weaknesses in black's position. As I said in the middle of this video, that there could be maybe some tactics of d4 and then maybe queen to a6. That's also a great opportunity. So now this tactic is working, because here Ding played knight to f6. It allows now here Anish Giri to play this very powerful outpost. After bishop to d6, we have c takes d6, and now rook to d6, and look at this idea, d4. As we said, d4 with queen to a6 is simply opening the position too much. It's almost a +3 position here for white, although down the whole piece, because this bishop is useless. With the great move h4, Anish Giri locked simply this bishop, and the bishop is out of game. The knight is also out of game, and now the heavy artillery is coming into the game. The rooks are coming into the game. Now in the continuation of the game, Ding tried c5. We have knight to c5, rook to e8, and here after a move queen to c4 in this position. Ding Liren resigned. So there are now no good defenses around to defend this cover attack. You could maybe try here king to d8, but I think we can play knight to b7 immediately. It loses the rook immediately. So as said, in this position, Ding Liren resigned. So great game by Anish. As we said in the middle of the game, queen to e2, maybe not the best move by the engine, but it forces now the spin. Let's go back. Really great move. So queen to e2, it allows basically the spin. Here Anish Giri wanted this position to be dynamic. He has to make something happen. As we said, his whole point behind Nepo, and now with this win against Ding Liren, he is only half of the point behind Nepo. But the main issue is that Anish Giri lost a game against Jan Nepomniachtchi, and if the point count is the same, I think the additional criteria is that the direct duel is more important than some other criteria. So it means now if Nepo and Anish Giri have the same point count, it means then Nepo is still in the lead. So we'll see, of course, what will happen in the continuation of the tournament. Anish Giri still has good chances. I think he plays really great chess in the second part of this candidates. I wish him all of the best, but I wish also everyone the best. Who is the best will of course win this tournament and will face of course the world champion Magnus Carlsen. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it. A lot of interesting ideas in the Ruy Lopez. If you want to see more attacking brilliances in chess, check out my best chess games of all time series. Here's the link, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.